Hello, everybody. This is John Paval with Access Arts Live. It's time for the weekly roundup of big stage live stream action. By that, I mean orchestras, ballets, operas, anything that takes up a whole big stage. And we have something for you just about every day of the week this week, except for Sunday. We are going to have, you'll get two chances to hear this lovely concerto by Korngold, which I think is very interesting to have two bites at that apple. And I'm waiting here for Instagram to come online, and they may not be coming online today at all. And if they don't, well, we'll just go live without them, right? We have everybody else here. We have orchestra works from the UK, from Finland, from Deutschland, Germany, from the United States, from Russia, and we have opera, an opera gala to close the week on Saturday, taking place in Warsaw with the Polish National Opera. So let's get to this. Let me tell you all about all these different performances that I have pictured there in that big blue background photo to my right. Before I go any further, let me remind you, if you're watching this on Facebook, please like the video. If you're watching on any of our other platforms, please don't just like the video. Follow and or subscribe to Access Arts Live. We're on YouTube, Facebook, X, TikTok, Instagram, Threads, and LinkedIn, where we are wherever you may be and wherever you may enjoy following us, because we want you to have that opportunity. We want as many people as possible to join this global audience. So let me start out by telling you first about something we just learned about today, because it's hard to find out some of these orchestras in advance. The Russian National Orchestra is live streaming a concert by the Moscow Chamber Orchestra, also known as Musica, Viva, playing Beethoven, Bach, and Dvorák. That's already going on now, because they start out at 7 in the evening Moscow time, which is 5 o'clock here in Europe, and it's already 6 o'clock here in Europe. But they're doing Beethoven's Concerto for Violin, Cello, Piano, and Orchestra in C major. That's probably over. Then they're doing Bach's Toccata and Fugue in D minor, arranged for orchestra. That'll be something. And then they'll do Dvorak's Symphony No. 9 from the New World, Opus 95. It might be of interest to see what the Russians make of Dvorak's New World Symphony. How can that not be interesting? And I was mistaken in what I just told you, because that's not today. Today's Monday. I forgot. That's tomorrow, Tuesday, November 25th. 5 o'clock in the evening European time, 11 in the morning on the East Coast, 8 in the morning on the West Coast, 7 o'clock in the evening Moscow time. Check it out. We'll give you the link. You'll have to go to their website, and if you want to watch it, it could be on YouTube, it could not. They're just not clear. But if you go to their website, you can definitely see it. We'll give you the link there, but they do want you to register on their website with your name and a password. So if you trust the Moscow Philharmonic Society not to mess with your name and your password, more power to you. Okay, let's move on from that to Wednesday, the Bournemouth Symphony. I hope I'm learning to say that correctly. Which will be your first opportunity to hear the Korngold concerto. Conductor Sean Edwards of the Royal Academy of Music leads the Bournemouth Symphony this week in a live stream of music by Benjamin Britten, Antonin Dvorák, and Korngold's violin concerto, played by a violinist who knows it well, Ning Feng. That'll be at Wednesday, November 26th, 8:30 in the evening European time, 2:30 on the East Coast, 11:30 in the morning on the West Coast, 6:30 early morning down under in Australia. Where they're moving into their summertime. You might be up early in the summertime in Australia. Anyway, they'll do Britten's 4C interludes from Peter Grimes, Opus 33A. These are interludes, tone poems that in the breaks in the opera. You know, doing interludes like that goes all the way back to Handel. If I don't know if you can go back earlier than Handel with opera. Then they'll do Korngold's Violin Concerto in D major, Opus 35. Both of those pieces were composed in the same year, 1945. Anyway, the question is, does Ning Fen know how to play this concerto? Does he? Oh, come on. Here's he did it in March 2022. And here's what Backtrack had to say about it when they were critiquing the performance. They called it a stunning performance of Korngold's Violin Concerto in D major. From the very first notes, our soloist Ning Feng took a more introspective approach than some players, and as a result, the first movement was serious and gripping throughout. He played with exquisite sweetness that had the audience hanging on every note. And the slow movement was equally beautiful and tender, etc. So what more can I say? Then they will, in the second half, they'll do Dvorak Symphony No. 6 in D major. This is the first one that was published, I think. And so it was originally numbered number 1, but it's not the New World Symphony. It's not American music. Think Czech folk music and folk origins and that kind of thing, and you'll be on the right track. Sion Edwards, she's the head of conducting at the Royal Academy of Music, which is where she ended up after an earlier career where she was she won the first Leeds conductors competition like 40 years ago, then became an opera conductor, was leading the English National Opera Orchestra for a number of years. She's played with a number of top symphonies around the world in her 40-year career, and recently she's been doing things I've noticed in her bio with the Scottish Opera and with the Royal Swedish Opera, 2021. So Ning Feng, he plays all over the place, and they really love him in Shanghai. He was artist in residence with the Shanghai Symphony a couple of years ago, and then he was artist in residence at something called the NCPA Beijing, and I don't know what that means, but I'm not an expert on Beijing. And he'll be at Wigmore Hall. I think he was already there this month, and then he's going to, as part of a trio, he'll be back in December and in February and in June. So top guy. Let us move on. I'm taking too long to do this today, I'll tell you that. What is up next? This is up next. And we still didn't get connected with and I think that's my fault, and I know how it happened. What I'm going to try to do now is I ask you to bear with me for just a moment, because I want to bring Instagram into this, because it's very hard to add them later. So this will just take a moment. If I do this now, will they be added? We'll find out. You may be joining us late on Instagram, and if you are, welcome. This is Access Arts Live's weekly roundup of big stage live stream action. Here is an interesting concert coming up. It'll be on Thursday with the Tapiola Sinfonietta in Espoo, Finland. Thursday, November 27th, Elisa Riedelen leads the Tapiola Sinfonietta in a concert playing jazz-influenced symphonic music by Kurt Weill, Bohuslav Martinu, and George Gershwin, with violinist Carolyn Wiedmann, pianist Aki Risanen, and burlesque artist Army von Fepp. Parental guidance being advised. Why is parental guidance advised? Well, because they have a burlesque artist in this show, and the show may contain nudity, bright lights, and theatricality. They'll do Kurt. These are three pieces of music, all of which are in that early jazz age when jazz was really something revolutionary. It's Kurt Weill's Concerto for Violin and Wind Instruments, and Martinu's Le Jazz, which was composed in Paris, but it was not premiered until the 1960s. But it was composed back in this time. And then Gershwin's Rhapsody in Blue. The Weill was composed in 1924 and the Rhapsody in Blue in 1926. Riedlin is a violinist conductor who came up through the Sibelius Academy under Sakari Oramu, who moves all the time, works a lot with the Swedish, the Royal Swedish Philharmonic, and he also studied at the Royal College of Music in Stockholm. He's been doing lots of debuts. He's up and coming, and this is his debut with Tapiola. Carolyn Wiedman she's a contemporary music specialist. She's been teaching at the Leipzig Hochschule the last 20 years, and she won the Preis der deutschen Schallplattenkritik. I love saying that, for a recording of Fantasy of Spring in 2010. And she was 2013 Artist of the Year at the Classical Music Awards, etc. Here's what the critics said about her playing Kurt Weill's Concerto for Violin and Wind Instruments back in 2020 at 92 NY with the Orpheus Ensemble. The Orpheus Ensemble, like the Tapiola Sinfonietta, is like conductorless. It's a chamber orchestra. So then they may bring in people to conduct sometimes, but they're conductorless too. She cruised through Kurt Weill's Concerto for Violin and Wind Orchestra with enviable confidence and aplomb. In the opening, over-percolating clarinets and a snare drum, Wiedman was the epitome of fluidity with dazzling passage work and a lustrous silken tone. In the central movements, her 1782 Guadagnini, that's the violin she plays, was at its glowing best in a duet with marimba. Especially appealing was Wiedman's forcefully audible pizzicato in a duet with the flute, and the languorous cadenza gave no, etc., etc. I'm telling you, she knows what she's doing. And she put up a very emotional Facebook post about playing this concerto because it was premiered like 30 miles from her hometown, and she's German. And Weill left Germany to go to New York City to escape the Nazis, etc. So she had a lot of feelings about that. And so this is a piece that means a lot to her. Aki Risanen is also on the piano. He's a jazz pianist. And Army von Vepp, the burlesque artist, is known for sometimes doing things which typify the term female grotesque. So if you pay your money, you take your chances, but it's free of charge for you as a live stream. So let's then move on to the next concert, which is also on Thursday, and it's featuring one of my favorites, Tabita Berglund, the conductor. Can't believe we're already 13 minutes in this, and I've only talked about 3 concerts so far. I mean, I'll be here for an hour if I keep up this pace. So let's move on more expeditiously. Tabita Berglund leads the Lahti Symphony and Mussorgsky's Pictures at an Exhibition and Dvorak's Cello Concerto with award-winning Swedish cellist Jakob Korngold joining in on Thursday, November 27th. That's at that is at 5:30 in the evening, European time, 11:30 in the morning on the East Coast, 8:30 on the West Coast, 6:30 in the evening, Finland time. And the Lahti Symphony is in Finland. They start out with the Dvorak's Cello Concerto. This should be good because Jakob Korngold won his career got started when he won just about every cello competition he could find back in the early 2000s. And Tabita Berglund started out as a cellist too. So you got 2 cellists handling this piece. And it was one that Dvorak composed while he was in the U.S. in the 1890s. He was heading up the National Conservatory in New York, and hanging out with people like Harry Berling, who was working as a janitor then. A fascinating story. Anyway, so that should be good. And then for the second part, they do Mussorgsky's Pictures at an Exhibition as fortunately arranged for orchestra by Maurice Ravel. I think this will be a lovely concert. I really like Tabita Berglund. She's been live streaming a good deal. She's the chief guest conductor in Detroit and also in Dresden. She just last Friday she was conducting the Frankfurt Radio Symphony with Julian Steck playing Shostakovich's cello concerto, and she's also was live streamed with the Detroit Symphony this fall. So you get a lot of chances to see her. I would encourage you to check her out. She's one of the best of this wave of women conductors that are, rising in the music system. Okay, brief but positive, wasn't it? Then we move on to Thanksgiving Day. And you can spend Thanksgiving with Christian Măcelaru. How about that? Where is this? Here it is. I have havoc going on. I'm trying to manage the Instagram people coming in. Happy Thanksgiving from Cincinnati as their new chief conductor, Christian Măcelaru, brings in violinist and Kentucky fiddler, Tessa Lark, to play Lisa Bielawa's Pulse 2 for violin and orchestra, along with works about home by Carlos Simon, Aaron Copland, and Antonin Dvorák. That'll be Thanksgiving afternoon, 2 o'clock on the East Coast. Well, many Americans have their Thanksgiving dinner in the afternoon then. Then 11 o'clock in the morning on the West Coast and 8 o'clock in the evening here in Europe. They start out with Carlos Simon's Tales of Folklore Symphony, which is based on African-American folklore and spirituals. Then Tessa Lark comes on to play Lisa Bielawa's Pulse, which is a co-commission of the Cincinnati Orchestra, and it draws heavily upon Appalachian music, which is, if you know about Tessa Lark, she's from Kentucky and she's a fiddler too, and people compose. I don't know if this one was composed for her, but people have composed concertos for her to play, which draw on that kind of music, like bluegrass and all of that. Then they'll do Aaron Copland's variations on a shaker melody from Appalachian string, continuing this American hominess. And they'll finish up with Dvorak's Symphony No. 7, which was very much for him about his Czech heritage. Tessa Lark, she was live streamed a fair amount this past summer at the Seattle Chamber Music Society Chamber Music Festival. She solos regularly with all the top orchestras around the world. She's there's a bluegrass-inspired violin concerto for her, which was composed by Michael Torke, called Sky, and it earned her a Grammy nomination, and it earned him a Pulitzer Prize finalist nomination. So a Kentucky fiddler playing a concerto inspired by Appalachian music. Of course. Happy Thanksgiving. Okay, then we move on to Friday night. Friday night, when the new chief conductor, Francis Xavier Roth, leads the SWR Symphony, that's Stuttgart and around, and its vocal ensemble in a performance of Helmut Lachenmann's Ausklang for piano and orchestra, with Jean-Francois Heiser at the keyboard, and then they'll do Beethoven's Symphony No. 7. Friday, November 28th. That'll be at 8 o'clock in the evening. There are several concerts at 8 o'clock in the evening coming out of Germany that I'm going to be telling you about. Lachenmann he's 90 years old, and he's a champion of what's called concrete music for instruments, where the focus is on how the sound is produced as much as it is on what the sound is. But he considers himself to be in the Beethoven tradition, even though his music sounds nothing like Beethoven, because he sees himself as a rebel and a free thinker, and sees Beethoven the same way. So, Jean-Francois Heisser, who's the soloist, he's a French classical pianist with over 40 recordings to his name. He's 75 years old, so he's been around for a while, and for a long time he taught at the Paris Conservatory. Now he's busy with a chamber orchestra ensemble down in Aquitaine, southwestern France. If you want, you can see an open rehearsal of the Beethoven 7th on Wednesday at 7 o'clock in the evening. We will give you the link to that together with the description and the link to this concert itself. So if you really want to dig into the whole process, you can do so. Okay. Where's the picture with Isabella Faust? There she is. Next up, artist in residence, violinist Isabella Faust serves up Mendelssohn's Violin Concerto in E minor and his friend Robert Schumann's Fantasy in C, while British conductor Andrew Manze leads the Cologne Philharmonic in Schubert's Unfinished Symphony. That's also at 8 o'clock in the evening, European time. Correspondingly 2 o'clock on the East Coast, 11 in the morning on the West Coast. They start out with Schumann's Overture to the Bride of Messina, and then Faust plays Mendelssohn's Violin Concerto in E minor. Excuse me. Then they have the break, and then she will play Schumann's Fantasy in C, Opus 131. And then they do Schubert's number 7 in B minor, the Unfinished Symphony. This is getting a little confusing for me. Anyway, I'll talk to you a little bit about this. Mendelssohn and Schumann were good buddies. And it's not known whether Schumann ever met Schubert, because he was about 10 years younger than he was. But in any event, like 10 years after Schumann died, Schubert died, Schumann went to see Mendelssohn. Well, he went to see Schubert's brother and got a chance to look through all of Schubert's manuscripts. And when he did so, he found the Unfinished Symphony and gave it to Mendelssohn, who then premiered it because Mendelssohn was an orchestra conductor, but they were buddies. So all these people are related to each other. And all this music you're hearing is related to each other. The soloist, Isabella Faust, she's artist in residence with the Cologne Symphony Orchestra this year, but also with the Musica in Amsterdam this year and the Bergen Philharmonic Orchestra. So she's resident at 3 different orchestras this year. You know, she's got to be good. She's been live streaming a lot. She was live streamed in September 18th, playing Dvorak's Violin Concerto with this orchestra, with Cologne. She was live streamed again on Friday, October 17th with the Bergen Phil. If you want to know more about her, look up her recordings with Harmonia Mundi, and you find an enormous amount of Bach and Bartók there, all very challenging stuff. She just takes on the really tough stuff and loves the challenge and obviously rises to it, or she wouldn't be an artist in residence at 3 different symphonies. And then we have one more concert for you on Friday night. So there's just a lot going on Friday night. And this last concert for you on Friday night is with 2 of the greats. Where's the photo that I have of these 2 greats for you? Here it is. Friday, November 28th at 8 in the evening, Alain and Altinoglu leads the Frankfurt Radio Symphony and Renaud Capuchon in Korngold's Violin Concerto and Shostakovich's Symphony number 11. Wow. So there's your second chance to hear Korngold's Violin Concerto this week. The first chance is on Wednesday with the Bournemouth Symphony Orchestra. Of course, the Bournemouth Symphony Orchestra is not free of charge. You have to pay £11 to watch that, and this one is free of charge. But then again, Ning Feng got just tremendous reviews for what he does with the Korngold. So I think it'd be worth it to hear both of them actually and compare. They'll added to that, they'll be doing Unsuk Chin's Ala Raf, which means right of the heartbeat. If you don't know who Renaud Capuçon is, he's just a phenomenon in France, both a violinist and a conductor, and sometimes he will play a concerto and conduct the orchestra at the same time as he's doing it. So he's just a heck of a guy. And Alain Antinoglu, interesting. He's been at Frankfurt since 2021. He also is the musical director at the La Monnaie Opera in Brussels. He directed Shostakovich's 8th Symphony and the Sibelius Violin Concerto in September on September 8th at the UNESCO Festival. And on the 9th, he then directed Renaud's brother Gauthier Capuçon, who was playing the Dvorak Cello Concerto in another concert. So everybody knows everybody here. Okay, and we are now on to the last of this week's live stream. So I am going to get everything done within the 30-minute time limit, which I do like to give myself and you. I don't imagine anybody wants to listen to me for more than 30 minutes, but you never know. OperaVision live streams the Polish National Opera's 200th year jubilee on Saturday, November 29th, in its home, the venerable Wielki Theater. They'll be doing works by Chopin, Moniuszko, who's a Polish opera composer, Verdi, Rossini, Bizet, Mozart, Penderecki, and Kilar. And it'll be sung by the Polish singers who are pictured there in the photograph, who are Andrzej Filonczyk, Alexandra Kurzak, Piotr Buzewski, and Rafał Siwe, with the Wielki Chorus and Orchestra, and as well the Polish National Ballet. This is going to be a big deal. It's going to go on for a while. It's going to be festive. This is the best they come up with. And all four of these singers have established international careers. They're not just localized Polish singers. So it's Andrzej Filonczyk is the baritone, Piotr Buzewski is the tenor, Rafał Siwek is the bass, and Alexandra Kurzak is the soprano. There we'll have presenters talking, which I presume will be Polish, but you never know. At the Chopin competition, the presenters were speaking English as well as Polish. Anyway, I want to mention some of the things they're doing. So Filonczyk, the baritone, will sing Largo e al Factotum from The Barber of Seville by Rossini. Buzewski, the tenor, will sing a piece from Moniuszko's Halka. And I don't know how to pronounce it. It looks like it's Sumya Yodli. There, that's the best I can do with it. And then Rafał Siwek, the bass, will do another piece from Moniuszko's The Haunted Manor, which was live streamed like this past year by OperaVision, called Ten Zega. Alexandra Kurzak will do an aria from Madame Butterfly by Puccini. There's lots of there's ballet dancing, there's the children's choir, which will be singing, and the whole thing finishes up with the mazurka from Moniuszko's The Haunted Manor. Looks like it's going to be a great, fun time for all concerned. Check it out, especially if you're an opera lover. Then there is one more to tell you about, but I don't have a separate photo for you. It would be a picture of the Igor Berendeyev. Well, actually, I do have Berendeyev's photo somewhere. Here he is. Just very briefly, Sunday, November 30th, the Tomsk Philharmonic will be broadcasting a program of music by Stravinsky from what they call his Russian period. This will be extracts from the ballets The Firebird, The Rite of Spring, which provoked a riot in Paris when it first premiered, and Petrushka. And this is it's a new project of the Tomsk Philharmonic, where there will be there's a whole sound and image installation kind of process that goes on in the course of this. So it could be, we're sort of bookending between a concert at the beginning of the week with the burlesque artists in it, and a concert at the end of the week with some kind of a visual installation going on. Folks, that's what we have for you this week in terms of orchestral and operatic live stream action. I hope that one, more, some, or any of these live streams inspires you, uplifts you, or just shows you a heck of a good time. I said, if you like burlesque artists or installation kind of things, but for my money, I'm a great fan of Tabita Berglund, but to me, the artistic, the musicological challenge this week is, why not tune in and hear both of those live streams of the Korngold violin concerto and see how different they can be. Once again, if you're watching this on Facebook, please like the video. If you watch on any of our other platforms, please follow and or subscribe to Access Arts Live. Don't just like the video. And you can do that on Facebook, YouTube, X, TikTok, Instagram, Threads, and LinkedIn. Ciao for now. I'll be back tomorrow with the weekly roundup of organ recitals and of chamber music. 2 separate live streams, 6 and 7 in the evening. Bye.